It's the 30th of January 2020. Not much was going on, besides some rubbish about a Chinese man deep-throating a bat in Wuhan. I don't quite think that man could have known how far-reaching the consequences of his actions would be, and it was a similar story for a certain cartoon living in a completely different continent, as, on the 30th of January 2020, the world was gifted with this beauty of a video. And was that really 4 years ago? God, I'm wasting my life on here. Lord Mahaveer Ragunathan's time in Formula 2 had just come to an end a few months prior, and frankly it was hard to fathom that anyone could embarrass themselves more in that series. The goat was way out of his depth. Hell, he couldn't even get out of his own f***ing car when it broke down in Abu Dhabi. Mahaveer would thus go down in history as the worst Formula 2 driver of all time. Until now. This is Niels Koolen, a Dutch racing driver, a man who attempts to drive, and his first stint in the category hasn't gone very well. That means we may just have someone to rival the great feats of Lord Mahaveer. So, in true Josh Revel fashion, let's take a trip down Koolen's memory lane, and pray this video gets 3 million views as well. Koolen was born in Vorden, the Netherlands, on the 25th of May 2001. On the very same day, Erik Weihenmayer became the first blind person to reach the summit of Mount Everest, and that will be the only achievement by far in this entire video. Koolen's father was a man named Kees Koolen, a rally raid racer who made regular appearances at the Dakar in the early 2010s. Kees did end up winning some minor titles, but he's far more famous for being the owner of Booking.com, who were the proud sponsors of this. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I don't think they'll touch me with a 10-foot barge pole after this one. Returning to Niels, and the young Dutchman was eager to follow in his father's racing footsteps, signing up for the Scooter Super Nationals Karting Championship at the age of 15. After finishing 54th in their junior series, Koolen decided this warranted making the step up to the senior category for 2017. There, he would finish 54th again. Points for consistency, I guess. A 17th place finish in the IAME Euro Series in 2018 would be the highlight of Koolen's karting career. 2019 would see him slip back to 19th in the standings, then 2020 rolled around, and the world came to an end. For Koolen, COVID-19 came at the worst possible time. Many junior categories closed up shop due to the pandemic. All the while, the Dutchman was getting older. If he had any dreams of racing in top-flight motorsport, he was losing crucial years to move up the junior ladder. So, when the Dutchman decided to make a racing return in 2022, he showed karting the middle finger and jumped straight into single-seater machinery. That debut would come in the form of a 3-race stint midway through the Spanish F4 Championship, driving for Monlo Motorsport, who I've never heard of, which probably means they're sh**. That word can also be used to describe the talent in this field at the time, with Hugh Barter and eventual champion Nikola Solov the only names that carry any kind of notoriety here. Koolen's best finish of 20th across the 3 races he participated in then doesn't look particularly great on paper, but we've got to remember that this was only his first foray into a single-seater class, and in fairness, he did show some progression as the races went on. Niels would then transition to the Italian F4 Championship for the final 2 rounds of that 2022 season. Now we were talking about names I actually recognise. We're talking people like Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Martini Stenshorn, Taylor Barnard, and now Niels Koolen. Again, we've got to remember that we're talking about a young rookie here, so 17th on debut at Monza didn't look too bad if he was going to continue to build on that performance. Yeah, he really didn't. After finding his feet in Monza, Koolen spent the opening 2 races in Mugello paying tribute to his birth year and driving like an absolute terrorist. The 28th place finish to round out the year wasn't particularly confidence-inspiring either, leaving question marks in the air over what the Dutchman would do for 2023. Another year to nurture in F4 would be a sensible choice. Koolen said f*** that, however, and went for a full frontal assault on Formula Regional for some reason. Now with a slightly more competitive Van Amersfoort racing team, this would be Koolen's best opportunity yet to score some strong results, despite this being the most competitive grid he'd come across up to now. Those results wouldn't come, however, Koolen only breaking out of the top 20 on 2 occasions over the year, and if by now you think this guy has any future in this sport, I've heard you can make your dick 3 times larger if you sellotape a fork to it and f*** a plug socket. Deep down, I think Koolen must have realised this as well. As for 2024, he went where everyone else who isn't good enough for Formula 1 goes. America. Joining HMD Motorsports in the Indy Next Championship, Koolen's first outing wouldn't go the way you might have expected, nearly murdering Jamie Chadwick before his headdress made a bid for freedom only 13 laps into the race. To Koolen's credit, however, he did end up scoring a best finish of 10th in only his 3rd race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm not sure whether I should be congratulating the Dutchman here or questioning the talent of everyone else on that grid. Niels would vanish from the series following the 10th round at Iowa. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think many people even realise this, but their ears did prick up when he was announced as a racing driver in Formula 2 a few weeks later. This came as a big surprise. Actually, no it didn't, but even still, this wasn't going to be an easy ride. Firstly, Koolen had skipped Formula 3 entirely, a jump that even Motorsport's version of Patrick Mahomes struggled to acclimatise to early in the season. And at least Kimi Antonelli here had the backing of a team like Prema. Koolen, meanwhile, was joining AIX Racing, a team that looked like they paint their car with human excrement, and actually that sums up their pace as well. Oh, and they've got an OP engine in their other car. The only fact riding in Koolen's favour was that his F2 debut would come at Monza, a relatively easy circuit to get the hang of for a young driver, and one that had seen the Dutchman's best results in his earlier European stint. Granted, those best results were 19th, but at least it's not Monaco. Koolen would be 4 seconds off the pace in Monza practice, leaving him 21st, a position he became rather comfortable with, as he also found himself there come the end of qualifying. This time just a second back on the car in 20th. Niels' gentle approach to racing at least allowed him to avoid the carnage down at turn 1 in the sprint race. It didn't necessarily help on the restart, however, when the AIX car was spotted 16 seconds behind the leader after just 3 laps of green flag running. Things appeared to have improved by lap 11. Now Koolen was just 9 seconds behind. Oh, never mind, that was from the next car in front. The pain would end with a 19th place finish, 16 seconds down on 18th place Antonelli, and 48 seconds back on race winner Behrman. That didn't look promising ahead of the longer sprint race the following morning. But this sport is unpredictable, and a safety car at the perfect time put our boy in a points-paying position come the restart on lap 9. Now, what could Niels do with that, you ask? Well, he opted for the Lando Norris approach of the Great Bottle. This trip across the chicane left Koolen down in 13th. Within 4 laps, he'd already descended to the rear of the field and was now 7 seconds away from the next car up the road. I'll give you a second to take a guess over how much time Koolen lost to the leader in the second half of the race. If you guessed 48 seconds again, you'd be wrong. Yeah, try doubling it. In a race weekend where teammate Joshua Dirksen was taking his Giga engine to the steps of the rostrum, regardless of whether this was Koolen's first races or not, things really weren't looking good. He could really do with another easy circuit to help build up his confidence with the car. Problem was, you can't get much easier than Monza, and next up was Baku anyway. First practice, 10 seconds off the pace. No, I'm not joking. Qualifying, 7 seconds back. Okay, that's an improvement, but it's like replacing Kim Jong-un with a talking f***ing potato. The sprint race was going to be a painful watch for the masses of new Koolen fans over on Twitter, especially when he was 17 seconds behind the car in 21st on just lap 6. By lap 11, it was 32 seconds, and after that, I stopped looking for the sake of my own mental health. Ritomo Miata, doing what he does best, provided Koolen with the lifeline he needed, a safety car to bunch up the field and give him another shot at doing something. Said safety car would come in on the start of lap 18, and as the cars approached turn 1, the AIX car was already 36 seconds behind 20th. I don't even know how that's possible. Dirksen and his Giga engine, meanwhile, would take advantage of the big Baku straight to claim the team's first win, as the racing gods finally showed mercy the following morning when Koolen picked up terminal damage off this start line crash in the feature. Also, I love how despite Maney and Marty's car looking like this, they were still classified ahead of Niels here. While Koolen was a laughingstock out on social media, his fellow drivers were at least full of praise for the Dutch rookie. Kimi Antonelli told journalists that he didn't even realise he was so slow, but he, quote, did a good job because he didn't cause any red flags. Countryman and feature race winner Richard Verschoor was also positive, saying Koolen, quote, wasn't terrible. Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall here. Sure enough, on the 16th of September 2024, news broke that the AIX team would be severing ties with Koolen and find someone else to drive the coloured car for the final 4 races of the year. And with that, the brief F2 story of Niels Koolen has come to an end. What will the Dutchman do now? Well, looking at his career trajectory, we'll probably see him in an IndyCar for 2025. If anything, this guy's career is merely proof that if you keep doing what you love, and if your dad owns Booking.com, you can achieve almost anything that doesn't require any actual talent. Do we have a new GOAT on our hands, or is Lord Mahaveer's legacy untouchable at this point? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, leaving a like and a sub really helps the channel grow. If you want my thoughts on the F1 Baku weekend, by the way, then that video came out on Sunday, so go give that a watch after this one. A huge thank you goes out to my patrons and channel members who get early access to these videos. In fact, they've already got access to my next one. If that sounds interesting to you, then head over to the links down below to get involved. I'll be back very soon then with another video, but until then, have a good one.